theoretically,
Uh-huh.
this episode could have been so fucking cool.
Yes.
There's some things that, like, do truly drive me fucking insane about this episode. There are some things that I don't know if they realize they did. This sure was an episode of Criminal Minds that we watched.
You know what? This was an episode of Criminal Minds. Hey B, since we're talking about Criminal Minds, the television show, would you like to do a podcast about Criminal Minds, the show that we do watch? We could call the podcast Wheels Up.
Oh, James, I would love to do a podcast called Wheels Up with you, in which we are already on, like, the
14th episode.
14th episode. I would love to do this podcast that just came out of nowhere very organically, and it's not like we, do this every week or anything.
Well, fancy meeting you in this recording studio. Wow, how did we both end up on this website? How did we
At the same time? Wow,
Yeah,
what are
both
the odds?
recording. Wow, that's crazy. A fancy meeting you here. The internet, am I right?
This episode.
Yeah. Okay, here's the thing.
We are talking about season 1, episode 14, Riding the Lightning.
Yes.
Let's just get that out of the way. Okay,
yes,
now go.
General thoughts. Wheels, down. Like usual, JJ does make my wheels go up. Rest of the episode, wheels down.
That sounds like such a weird innuendo. Man, she really gets my wheels going up, dude.
Yeah, I did do that on purpose. JJ does rev my engine and get my wheels up. She makes me put my seat in an upright position. Is that anything? Is that anything?
No, that's nothing. You've said nothing. Say what you were actually gonna say. Wheels down for this episode, yes.
There are a few really cute moments in this that I liked, like fun them moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Here's the thing about this episode, right? It's like I like all the parts of this episode, but then the end of it gets so preachy. And like Gideon makes like 4 separate rando Bible references, and I'm just like, why?
I don't think the guy that they got to play the male serial killer worked for this episode.
I love that actor, and I couldn't tell you what else he is in, but I think he was too strong.
Exactly. Like, the lady Sarah Jane played, I think, she played more within the context of this episode. I think she played better in this episode. I think the guy could have played a great one-off serial killer in another episode of Criminal Minds. I don't think he fit the tone of this episode.
You're so right. You're so right. And I get that, like, that contrast was supposed to be
I get that it was supposed to be a contrast, but it just didn't click right.
And I couldn't picture them in any sort of relationship like before this. Like, that guy is so clearly unstable, manic. Like, I wish they talked. Like, did he have a job? Because
he was like a carpenter, I guess, and really liked arches, and that was it.
And they never explained the arch thing. They never explained it.
They were just like, this is something architecturally that he likes.
Yeah.
End of story.
Like, what? But like, that's not a man that can hold down a job. Like, that's not a man who's like, I'm gonna go do some work in my workshop for 10 hours. Don't bother me. Like that guy says, hey, I'm gonna go out for a bit, and you don't see him for 3 days. Like, that's the kind of guy that is. He's not like how did he have a stable job ever?
Yeah. I think it comes down to like, he would have been a fucking great killer in some other episode. I don't think he was the right personality for this episode.
Yeah, like, he would have been great for like a little arc like Mark Hamill was, like Tim Curry was, like Mr. Scratch. Like, if he was one of those, I would have been in love with him as an unsub.
Yeah.
But in this episode, it's like, dude, give it up. You've been in jail for 16 fucking years. Like, and I get that
you're gonna die at the end of the episode. You're gonna die. That's the whole point of this episode, sir. And then he does die, and you're like, well, I feel nothing now.
Especially because, like, when they talk to the mom, she says that Jacob was like shy and quiet and smart. And then when you meet him, he's fucking like the Joker.
Yeah, he's an unhinged maniac when you meet him, and you're like, wait,
You're
hold
like,
up, what?
how did he ever fool anyone into thinking he was norm? Like, it was, that was the thing that I didn't understand. Like, he didn't seem like he would have the capability to pass as someone who, got people close to them, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't, his personality doesn't match with the kind of person who killed 18 people and only got caught for like 12 of them, right? Like he didn't get caught
Yeah.
for a very long time, right? That
Yeah.
just like, I don't know, it just doesn't, something about it didn't match, and maybe we'll find out as we're going through this episode, but like there was just something that didn't click with
Yeah.
him in contrast to her.
Yeah. And I think, now let's talk about her for a moment. I think she was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I think that actress, I'm gonna name her real quick because I
Yeah.
think she did a great job.
She was honestly amazing. I think she held her own against Gideon. I think that she was great. Like I did care about her, and they made me care about her in a way that at the end, when Gideon is like, let me save your life, let me save your life, I kept being like, dude, look how calm she is. Like,
Yeah.
she's so sure of this. Like, let her do this, just because like she was such a stable, you know, kind person.
Yeah, she's really good. She's also the actress is Janetta Arnett. She's been in a whole lot of things.
Oh yeah.
Her IMDb page is long
Name some
and
like big stuff.
story. She was in Head of the Class. She was in the Jackie Thomas show.
Hmm.
More recently, she was in Extant. She was in Switched at Birth a little bit. She was in.
I like to know any of these. I saw her and I
She's
was like,
also
I know who that is, but none of these I've seen.
she's done a lot of. She's also done a lot of like one-offs of like these types of shows. Like she's done
Oh,
CSI and Law and Order and all versions of
ER.
CSI and all versions of Law and Order and
Yeah,
an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and
of
you know what I
course.
mean? Like she's done a lot of things, so you might just recognize her and not know what from.
Yeah, but she is so good. Someone get this woman in like a tragedy.
She is really good. And she,
Yes.
I think, like so good in this episode.
Yeah.
Truly like one of the best, I think, portrayals of a quote unquote unsub that we've seen thus far. I think she's
Yeah.
really good
And I
and
think,
so tragic.
yeah, and I think she makes it really believable that she wouldn't have known. Like, I think you can tell that she's like a genuinely kind person,
Yeah.
especially with how, like, the warden to Gideon is like, we need to wipe these people like off the face of the planet. We need to get rid of them in their memory, but then he like takes her outside to see the stars and she's like, how's your son doing? Like, she knows his name. Like, clearly she is like a caring person. And I think it's like,
Yeah.
I think in times like these, like I think of Broadchurch.
Mhm.
I don't know if you watch Broadchurch, but the oh, it's a big spoiler for Broadchurch. Well, let me be big about it. The main character is a police. The main female character is a police officer, detective inspector, whatever the fuck they call them in England. Um, and she like there was a crime that happened a while ago that it ended up being the woman's like husband that did it, and the police officer like she keeps being like, how could you not have known, like it was happening in your house, whatever. And then when the crime that's happening in the show is solved, it's somebody very close to her, and people then turn to her and say like, how could you not have known, like it
Mhm.
was happening in your house, and she has the moment of like, I didn't know, how could I have
Mhm.
known. And I feel like this this episode, I mean, they never like say it, but I feel like it's kind of like implied that people are like, people keep saying like, go to hell, Sarah Jean, like all that kind of stuff, think that she was part of it, think that she knew and she let them, but like in reality she didn't. no. And I believe that, like this
Yeah.
actress, like I believe that. Especially like the thing where she painted a bouquet of roses and there were only 12, even though he has 18 victims, and like they found another body. That's why they're here, and she flips out. Like the actress just like I there's no doubt, they're not trying she's not playing like maybe I did it, maybe I didn't. Like you so
Yeah.
clearly believe her that she's
Yeah.
innocent.
It's just so she does such a good job this episode.
Yeah, I love
I
her.
like almost it made me like Jason Gideon a little bit because the back and forth that they have is really good, actually. I think they have a really good rapport.
I know why this guy is so familiar to me. The male unsub. He's
Why?
fucking Charles Hoyt from Brazilian Isles. He plays the
Oh.
guy that's like Brazilian Isles, like tormentor, torturer guy.
Oh.
He's a great actor. He was great as Charles Hoyt. He's in 4 episodes. He's creepy as fuck. That's what he should be doing. This him already
Oh
in
yeah.
jail. Yeah,
Wait,
right?
he's from KC. Fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah, get it, my man. You weren't great in this episode of CM, but I trust you're great in everything else.
Yeah. He was really good in Brazilian Isles. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh,
Oh,
duh.
and he's in the blacklist. That's where I know him from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's in 24. He's in a lot of things. I think he plays this kind of guy a lot. An episode of The
Yeah.
X-Files. Um, yeah, so he does a lot of
Damn.
stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like every time Sarah Jane was on screen, I was like, I love this episode. And then every time he was on screen, I was like, God, I don't give two shits about this guy. Like,
Yeah, let's go through this episode because
okay.
there are some things that I do genuinely like. And one of them
Mhm.
comes right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because we get admittedly, it's a weird scene, but the first thing is like Gideon listening to a cello
Cello.
performance.
Yeah. Crying. One single tear.
One single tear. I want to explain to you why I think that music choice is fucking genius.
Yeah.
The music that they chose is Bach's Prelude in G major.
Mhm.
And it's like the most famous cello song of all time because it
Yeah.
plays in fucking everything. But I really like the choice here because I'm going to get into music theory for like half a second. Bear with me. I promise it makes sense.
I can do it.
So on in Prelude in G major, it's like a prelude to a dance. So it's like a little bit sort of just like a light airy little like get you ready to dance, get you ready to move.
Mhm.
Using the G major scale like Bach did to construct this piece, the bass note that you have is obviously G. The other really important note when you're looking at scales is the fifth, because for some reason the fifth of any scale just sounds good to our ears. That's just a music theory fact that we're just like, this sounds good, so this is important musically. Don't ask me why. I don't know why.
Sure,
It
it's
just
the
sounds
harmony,
good to our
right?
ears, so we love it.
Yeah.
In this piece, that those notes are G, which is your bass note, and then D, which is that fifth. On the cello that this piece is most commonly like, this is, you almost always just hear a cello or like two cellos on it. On the instrument, the cello, the open strings are C, G, D, and A, going from C is the lowest, A to the highest. So the open two strings of G and D are like the main strings that you use for this piece. So the whole piece has this very like light, bouncy, open, airy like energy to it. And you can hear that even as like somberly as it's played in here. It's like a light little dancey tune.
Yeah.
I love them using a light, open, airy, dancey tune to contrast with the fact that these two people are in prison and haven't seen light or open air forever. I like
Mhm.
that they use it to contrast the internal conflict, but also the fact that like this episode happens pretty much entirely in the same like 4 rooms of a prison. So I
Mhm.
like that they're like, let's start it off with this like open, with this piece that is notorious for being played over like open montages and like sweeping landscape shots, and it's just Jason Gideon crying one single tear. I just love that they made that musical choice. And so shout out to the music supervisor on this episode. I see what you did there. I
Heck
see what
yeah.
you did, and I love it. I know nobody else in the world will go as deep into it as I just did, but like, I see you.
No, I
I
really
see you in
liked
a
the
little
music. I couldn't tell you the name of the song, but I recognized it. It's like that song, you know?
bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I I played cello for years and then bass for years, so whenever I hear that
Oh.
song, I'm like knee twitch reaction. It's like
um, yeah. Yeah, I do think it was good, especially because it like the song fades and the um visual fades into getting in the car. Jason's immediately like, yeah, so Sarah Jean and Jacob Dawes did kill 12 people, and you're just like,
immediately
okay,
they go
well.
from this little boppy little jaunty tune to like, hey, anyway, 12 people died.
Oh,
And then we're about to add two more.
she uses the word butchered. Sarah Jean and Jacob Dawes butchered 12 girls. And that's like what interrupts the scene. Also, okay, here's the thing about it though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flash forwards aren't common, I don't think. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh, we're having like I didn't remember how it shifted. So I was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
either going to be like a flashback or he's going to have to like leave the concert or something. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
just like a thing.
It's just a thing.
It was just like, hey, Gideon, you're telepathically like connected to this crime, by the way, which is very
It's
interesting.
yeah, I they sometimes some shows do go through enough effort to like do it often enough that you're like, okay, flash forward, this makes sense. I'm confused, but I'm with it.
Mhm.
This show does not make that effort to
No.
ever make you realize that it's a flash forward. It's always a flashback.
And it's not even like a scene. Like, because I feel like Criminal Minds will do that occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
It'll have a scene
Yeah.
and then be like 2 days ago,
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
3 days before, that kind of thing. This was not that. This is like you open on Gideon crying at an orchestra show, and then we're just kind of in a cart.
And then 30 seconds later,
Yeah,
it's done. Like it just
it's
crossfades pretty much immediately. So it's a weird
yeah.
choice.
It was just like it was over, and I was like, oh, okay,
It's
cool.
one of those things that like I would not give a shit about if I hadn't played the cello for years. You know? If
Yeah,
I didn't have the music theory background that I
yeah.
do, I would not have given a shit about why they're playing that song right then, you know?
I will say though, I did. I was like, oh, because so the episode before this is Gideon and Al having the conversation about like it's always better for families to be together. And then I think the episode before that was him calling his son. So when I
Yeah.
saw this scene, I was like, oh, is he watching his son play the cello?
Is his son a cellist?
Yeah, that was my first.
His
I was like, oh, was he invited to see his son's show? And then one,
had to
no, and two, it just like ended, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Okay.
okay. I was like,
Anyway.
I guess we'll learn the emotional significance of that eventually. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So they're in the car. Okay, before we talk about the scene, I have to say that I loved this. Okay, they, it's two cars. They broken into two cars. The first
Mhm.
car is Derek driving, Gideon in the front seat, JJ in the back seat. They're just talking about the
Yeah.
cases. JJ's like, dude, what the fuck? This is terrible. And then it cuts to the other car, which I'm gonna call the fun car, which is Elle driving. Hotch in the passenger seat looking at his files, and then the back seat, Reed, and then Penelope, she's sitting like behind the passenger seat behind Hotch, but she is fully just in Reed's lap.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
literally was like, oh my god, this would be the best road trip ever.
It
Like
would be such a fun car.
there's like the grown-up car, and then there's like the fun car, And like at some point Hotch is like, can I switch cars? Hotch
Please.
is like, I did have the conversation. I would like to switch cars, and they do. And then eventually JJ's like, God, this car is boring. I'm gonna go to the fun car. Like
It's so
I just loved it. I just like loved that there was
it's
like a business car and a fun car.
yeah, I like it, but I also like that they were just like this is I think the earliest time we haven't seen them in cars much this season, right?
No, so
They've just like been
in
magically teleporting around, right? For the
yeah,
most part.
we haven't gotten any very good on the plane to a location yet.
Yeah, so I like that they're just like, "Hey, actually, guys, don't worry. This time they're going places, and you can see it as we
Yeah.
drive down the most like cracked, ill-maintained county highway known to man."
Fucking Central Florida. I wrote in full caps Central Florida LMAO. Because of course it is. Um yeah, I think the only time we've gotten kind of like a scene similar to this would be in Derailed, when it's like
Yeah.
Derek driving, Hotch in the passenger seat, Reed, JJ, Gideon in the back. Hilarious. Okay, anyway, there's my little fun moment. That was just a little moment that I really loved.
I
Um,
know, I liked it. It was really
yeah.
good.
So we get our introduction to the case. Sarah Jean and Jacob Dawes butchered 12 girls, and now it's 13 because they have just found a new body. Hillary Dixon disappeared 16 years ago, and she was found buried under Sarah's mom's living room. How was she found? I'm so glad you asked. It isn't a deleted scene. Um, did you like that? A little transition
It's
there.
really good. It's really
Thanks.
good.
I do my best. Um, so in the deleted scene, it's an older woman. We don't know who she is. She's her house is having work done on it, and she uh is like she's in like a negligee. She's an older woman, older, and she's like in a negligee with like a cardigan, like drinking. And there's these two guys doing the work, and they just kind of like get up and leave. And she's like, "Oh, come on, guys, don't you want a drink?" Like, very clearly has been harassing these men while they try to work on her house. And then she takes a step, and her foot goes through a floorboard. And she's like, "Oh gosh," she puts her foot out, she lifts the shoe, and there's a fucking skull. Yes, that's right. Sarah Jean's mother found the body under her floor.
Oh my god.
That's why when we see her later, she is shit faced.
Man, I thought they were just saying that she was a drunk old lady like they sometimes do.
I mean, it kind of seemed like she was always kind of like a sleazy, like,
Yeah.
"Hey, worker man, I will sexually harass you while you work at my house." Like, she seems like she was always like that, but no, she was very
Yeah.
drunk because she did find that body, though.
Wow.
Yeah. Hmm.
I can see why that's a deleted scene, but that is also so fucking funny.
I think my guess is that was supposed to be the opening scene to the episode. Would be her like, who's this woman flirting with these guys? Are they gonna hurt her? And then her footsteps through the floor, and it's a skull, and she screams. She like drops her cup, and it's like, ah, ah, ah. Then it like just cuts. So I assume that's how the episode was like going to start. And then
Yeah,
they
and then
went for
they
like the emotional weight, quotation marks, emotional weight. I don't know who he's listening to at the beginning of this episode. It means nothing to me. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Weird. Okay, yeah, no, now that you mention it, that does sound like an opening scene that they would do.
it sounds like an opening scene in Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were
Um,
like, we had some other shit to get through before the title sequence rolled on this one, gang.
yeah. And also I feel like if JJ is just gonna be like they found, the body buried under Sarah's mom's living room, we didn't need to also see it
The body
happen.
being under Sarah's mom's
Yeah.
living room. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair.
Oh, I also wanted to say, excuse me, I also wanted to say that I liked the way we got the information about this case between the two cars. Like they managed to integrate it pretty casually. They really emphasized, like the kids of the team, JJ,
Mhm.
Reed, Penelope, aren't going to be familiar with every single
This
case.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Reed is, but Elle isn't. So like they
Mhm.
did a good job of having people be like, this is really terrible. And they're like, oh, yeah, I mean, but here's also this information. They did a good job of being conversational as opposed like we find out um, that Penelope is like, he killed blonde girls. I'm a blonde girl. It's like that's how we found out that. And that
He
is
likes blondes.
important
Yeah.
because later when JJ goes in, we already have the information that he was killing blonde girls. So I really liked the way they kind of subtly, give us information.
Yeah, I also like they had a little moment where Rita's like, nerding out because he's like, this will be the first serial killer couple recorded for ViCap. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, this is an interesting thing that we haven't seen before. And also, don't they make a mention of like, well, the court really didn't care about their dynamics or
Yeah.
if she was
Elle says
actually
that.
innocent or not.
Yeah.
Like, they just wanted the case fucking closed kind of thing, which I'd
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah, Elle has her like fuck men, fuck the system. They didn't care about their dynamics or if she was innocent. They wanted swept away.
Honestly, so true,
Yeah.
Queen.
So true, Queen.
So true.
We find out that Sarah Jean was called the Ice Queen by the media during the case because she like was so composed and like seeing, I'm glad we got that information because it definitely like set up her stoicism.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely like the propaganda works on us, the audience, of her being the Ice
Yeah.
Queen.
And
But
I
then
think they definitely set it up, especially when they're like going into the prison and they see like the only signs that they have are like Sarah Jean go to hell. And like the one who has fans is him, not her. And so
yeah.
I like that they set up this like deep misogyny real early. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And like she does have this kind of like, I'm gonna die, I don't really care, like we're doing it. And at the beginning it can be a little off putting that
Mm-hmm.
she's so like, hey, it's been a month, like can I see it now? Okay, bye. Like this whole thing, and you're like, damn, she is a cold hearted killer. And then you find out why she's being like that, and you're like, oh my god, I love you, Sarah Jane. Like,
I know.
yeah.
You're like, damn, okay, girl.
JJ says Sarah Jean killed her 2-year-old son and 12 girls. And Gideon's like, well, Sarah Jean only confessed to killing her son. She didn't confess to killing the girls. Okay, one of the things I didn't like about this is it's really unclear what they were convicted of.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
like mention this whole like court case and the whole idea like the whole ordeal often, but they don't say like was
Yeah.
she convicted of 13 counts of murder like he was,
Because,
or was she
yeah.
only convicted of one and is now just being sent to death row for the one murder that she did admit that she like it's very
Yeah.
unclear. You're right, and
Yeah.
it's
And,
not
and I
good.
think it needed to be set up more because her killing her son being false, her having falsely confessed is what would get her off death row, would stop her from being killed. So it's like if she lied about killing her son, does that mean she also lied about killing the other people? She never confessed to those. Was she convicted of it though? Like I just like really would like to know like, is she on death row for killing her 2-year-old son? And if so, like how did that how she confessed, but there was never a body. They wouldn't have found his blood. There's no evidence of a crime except that her son was no longer at the house and she confessed. And I don't think that's necessarily like enough to convict somebody of a crime. I mean, I don't know, right? Like habeas corpus, produce the body.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, you're right in that it is weird, and I
Yeah,
don't. I it did definitely need to be clearer. I think because like would he have also gotten off of death row if their son was alive? We don't know.
right. Like was he
But that's never
convicted?
like in question for him. It's only in question for her. So like was
Right.
he not convicted of the kid's murder? Was he only convicted of the 12? It's
Yeah. Like I think if he had been convicted of the 12 and the kid being false would not have erased the 12
mhm.
girls. But they didn't say what it was. Was it like he'd gotten, 13 life sentences? Like or 13 death sentences? Like what were they convicted of? I just want to know.
Yeah. No, but it also yeah, it sets up it's so weird cuz they're like never trying to they're never wanting to get the dude off of death row,
No.
which is fair
Yeah.
because he is a fucking insane person. Like he
Yeah.
acts incredibly perverse the whole time
Oh
he
yeah.
is on screen. But they're always trying to get her like they go in thinking that she's innocent is what it kind of feels like.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty immediate that they're like she didn't do this, guys.
Yeah.
And it seems weird to me that they had all this time to set everything up. And they're like, we don't care about the convictions. Hand wave it away. It's
Yeah,
TV. Who cares?
and it's really interesting to me, right? Because for her, saving Riley is like the gotcha to Jacob. She wins because Riley's alive. But what's interesting to me is so the reason they think he's dead is because Jacob ordered her to go kill Riley.
Yeah.
But Sarah Jean has never killed anybody. Why would he think that she would be capable of murder if she's never been murdered about it, never murdered anybody, and didn't even know about it? You know, like he would be like, she has no idea I've killed anybody. She has no idea this murder even happening. But hey, Sarah Jean, they're coming for me. Go kill our son. Like I just don't understand why he like I totally believe he'd order it, but I can't. I don't know why he would just like blindly be like,
She
yeah, she
definitely did.
definitely
I
did
believe
it.
this.
I guess
Yeah.
maybe she confessed, but I don't know. Right? Doesn't that
Yeah,
feel weird?
he doesn't seem like the type to give up control for something as big as killing his own son.
Right. Especially
As fucked up as
because
it sounds, it doesn't
right.
seem like that doesn't track for me.
Yeah, and it's like, what was he doing in those hours between the first time the cops visited and then when they came back? Because none of the bodies were gone from under his workshop. The body under the mom wasn't gone. The body under the gazebo wasn't gone. So, like, I think the more realistic thing would be like he went out and killed the son.
Yeah, that's what would have tracked for me too. Or like if he I'm so shocked he didn't kill her, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Because if they had 3 hours in between visits, we'll get to
yeah,
it later, but like, how
yeah.
he didn't murder her?
I feel like a
Weird.
more believable twist for this episode would be like he says, "Get Riley, get in the car." They drive out somewhere remote, and he says, "Okay, I'm gonna go kill Riley," and she says, "Wait, I'll do it. I'm his mother." And then she takes
Yeah.
Riley out into the woods and then fucking leaves him there. Like
Yeah.
if there was some, but what actually happens is she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go kill him." She takes him to an employer's house and says, "My husband told me to kill my kid. I'm not going to take the baby.
This is your son now.
This is your son now."
Hey, this boy, he's yours now.
Or like if her husband was like, "Hey, actually I've killed 12 people and you just didn't know about it, now go kill our son." Why wouldn't she take the baby to the police and say, "Hey, I know I lied while you were here because I was scared, but now, like, I believe what you were saying.
He straight up told me he
You
killed
straight up
12
told
people.
me, yeah, like, put this kid in protective custody." And, like,
Yeah.
she keeps saying, like, the kid's not safe as long as Jacob is alive, but there was no, um, why didn't she trust the police? Why did she, why did she think he would be able to get to the boy while in jail? Like it didn't sound like he was like the head of some crime operation. He was just like one dude,
He was
you
one
know.
dude with a workshop and a fetish for archers. Like,
Yeah, and I understand because they say that she really behaves kind of like a war victim. That's how they describe her. And
yeah.
I understand that, and I understand the abuse she must have been going through.
Hmm.
But if she's strong enough to give the baby
Hide.
away instead of killing it and then keep
Yeah.
quiet about it for 16 years and willing to die, like clearly her preservation instincts towards her child were stronger than whatever hold he had on her, even 16 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
This
know.
episode this episode both does and doesn't hold up when you actually look at it.
Yeah.
Because you're like, none of the reason why they're here doing anything makes sense. But I do like their conversations, and I do like the back and forth that they have, and it's interesting sometimes.
Yeah, it's like the setup and the reason for the episode makes no sense, but if you accept what they've said, the episode makes sense. It's like that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Which, hey, it's a serialized,
Mm-hmm.
propaganda TV show. You can't win them all. You can't win every episode. They can't all be
you
bangers.
you win some, you lose more.
You lose quite a lot.
Speaking of um cringy Criminal Minds shit, Derek does call the electric chair Old Sparky.
And they're also still using an electric chair. Was the electric chair still in use in
You know,
2006?
I think I cannot.
I can't imagine it would be.
I also think Florida has gotten rid of the death penalty. Oh, wait, this is a. When was the last electric chair execution in Florida? 1999. Hey, Criminal Minds. Ooh, what the fuck, Criminal Minds? I mean, people were still being put on death row. So yeah, so the last electric chair killer was in 1999, and after that, from 2000 until 2019, people were being killed by lethal injection.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, is Florida still a capital punishment state? As of
Unfortunately, I
November,
think most states are.
really, I really thought there were fewer. As of November 7th, 2020, 339 offenders are awaiting execution. Florida State Prison. Um,
Yeah.
it's because of fucking Rick Scott. I hate that guy. He's our governor. He does look like Florida. He looks like Voldemort.
It just, I don't know, like it's so. Even when I started watching this episode and they had like that whole weird montage where they like do glamour shots of the electric chair, and I'm
What
not sure why
was
that
that?
exists. I'm not sure why
I
any of
was
those
like, I
scenes
was like,
exist.
why is there like? You're so right. It's like glamour shot clip show. I was like, why am I like looking at like sexy montage of an electric chair? Like, what the
It's
fuck?
like a car commercial, but for an electric chair, and it's weird. And even like,
Oh no! Oh no! So I just looked up Alt Sparky. It's
it
the
was
nick.
apparently
Oh
one specific
no!
chair, right?
Electric chairs were had names. Old Sparky is the nickname of the electric chairs in Arkansas, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Nebraska, New York, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. Old Smoky was the nickname of the electric chairs used in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. Hmm. I don't I don't enjoy the idea that they did give electric chairs nicknames.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because they said if we call it Old Sparky, it's a deterrent. Like the death? Old Sparky, though. That'll get him to stop. Oh, so, okay, here it is. Lethal injection was enabled in 1999 and became the default method. Inmates, however, may still choose electrocution. In January 2014, Wayne Dottie asked the state to carry out his death sentence by electric chair, becoming the first inmate to do so since electrocution became optional. Oh, there's only. Okay.
Huh.
The only execution chamber in Florida is located at Florida State Prison, which is where this episode takes place. When sentenced, male convicts who receive the death penalty are incarcerated at either Florida State Prison itself or at Union Correctional Institution next door, while female convicts who are sentenced to death are incarcerated at Lowell Correctional Institution north of Ocala, and then they're moved to death row at Florida State Prison. So, okay, so according to the real life facts, which we know Criminal Minds isn't super like, Sarah Jean has been in a different prison all this time for 15 years. She's been in a different prison from him. So that
Mm-hmm.
scene where they walk by each other is the first time they've seen each other in 15 years. I mean, like, I knew they weren't, like, probably hanging out,
Yeah.
but, like, the idea that they've been, separated is interesting. So then we cut to Sarah Jean being walked to her death row cell, and the warden is like, "There's going to be a guard outside your cell 24/7. You'll get your effects soon. You can't leave your cell your last meal has to be less than $20,
$20.
which ripe. And then Sarah Jean says it'll be a full month tomorrow. Like, can I see it? And he says, sorry, it's against policy. And you don't learn what it is.
No, she says it'll be a full moon tomorrow.
Oh, a full moon.
Yeah.
I thought you said a full month. Like it's been a month since she's been outside.
Nah, it's a full moon, baby.
Oh. I thought it was like emotionally significant that it had been like a month since she went outside and then she got to go outside.
Nah, it's just a full moon. Because everybody likes the moon.
Yeah.
You know, the moon. I can't think of a single person who doesn't look at the moon and go, hey, the moon.
Every time I see the moon in the daytime, I'm like, that's the moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, look, you can see the moon. It's most days you can see the moon. But every single time I'm like, oh, there it is. There it is.
I'm always like shocked that it's there. I'm like, oh, hey, look at you there. Fancy seeing you there up in the sky.
Oh, fancy meeting you here. Moon. Okay. Florida State Penitentiary. So they drive into the prison, and there's a bunch of people, and they're like 50%.
God, we have been recording for 45 minutes, and we're just getting to them driving into the prison.
But yes, this will be our first 3-hour-long episode. No, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Good stuff already. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the big stuff.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just looked up at the time and I was like, what the fuck?
We've said nonsense.
Continue,
I remember none of it. Okay. They drive into the prison and there's a big crowd shouting, and they're kind of 50%. You see people with signs that are like, burn in hell, Sarah Jean, etc., etc. But then we learn about the women of Jacob, who are women who try to look like his victims.
So they're serial killer groupies, which is, I think, the first time the show touches on serial killer groupies.
I think so too.
And they don't touch on it any more than just like looking at them outside the window, but you know, they're there.
I was just gonna say that. I was literally like, they mention them. No, at one point they show like when he's dying, they show like a prayer circle. The girls are all like holding hands in like a circle, which is like, okay, whatever. So then, so I wrote this. This is where we see Jacob for the first time. So what was interesting to me is Sarah Jane is like in a triangle. You know, there's two guards behind her, and then the warden in front of her. She has no cuffs, no chains. She's just walking. And then Jacob is wearing like this belt that his hands are cuffed to with the chains to his legs, and the guards have a hand on either arm. Like, it was like such a contrast to her just being like, oh yeah, chill, nice little walk, and him being like fully like guarded, cuffed, everything, you know. Mm-hmm. Like somebody else lights his cigarette. Like they won't even give him like a lighter, you know.
Yeah. It's to the point where like I was shocked when he had playing cards when they went into the room with Hotch.
That was so weird.
It was so weird. But like, I think that just serves to show what we're talking about even more of like, she's really good at playing innocent. If even the guards in death row prison are like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Just walk.
And I think it's also interesting because like him having cards, like he says he's only been playing solitaire, but like he has a deck of cards, you know, and she's got like her paintings. I think it's just interesting that like he plays a game that you finish and you put away and there's nothing to show for it, and then she makes paintings that she can continue to look at, you know. He's got this kind of like short-term attention span where she sits down and will paint, it seems, for a very long time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just more subtle things about like their characters. Okay. Gideon thinks there are more victims. We see flashes of the chair again, and then we get our voiceover quote, and it is a Bible quote.
It is a Bible quote. It's like, what is it, fucking Genesis this week?
Yeah, it's like, it's about, you know, revenge. It's like a man who sheds blood will have his blood shed, something like that. Yeah. So then they show that it's Monday at 8 a.m. and they have 35 hours until the death. Once again, a time crunch. Like every fucking one of these episodes is at a time limit. We always mention it.
It always does. These early episodes, they don't know how to do shit without a time limit.
Yeah. It's like they aren't sure how to make things feel urgent. So they just put a time limit. So there's urgency, you know? I think later they get better about like having crimes that are, or like they focus more on criminals who like escalate,
Mhm.
or who have like, just started a spree, or just the spree's been like discovered and it's like a big deal, but these early episodes, it's like a girl goes missing, a girl's being held for ransom, someone's gonna like die in the electric chair. It's like it feels contained. Like, even though this guy has had 16 or 18 victims, the episode is not about that, you know? Like, it is, but it
Yeah.
isn't. Yeah. Yeah. So we learn in 1985 there had been a string of missing girls, and then the police got an anonymous call that said Jacob had been seen with some of the girls, and they don't know who called. And yeah, and so they're at the prison. They're in like the command center. Garcia's like all set up, and there's like they put a big like clock that was like 35 hours, and I was like, okay, you could just I don't understand. I think they like it shows us that Gideon really was like, we have 36 hours to prove the innocence, 36 hours to find more victims. But I was really confused about this because they're like, yeah, we're gonna go talk to them about VICAP. So like, why'd you do it? Like, what led to it? But that's not what they talked to either of them about.
Yeah, they don't do any of the
I
questionnaires
No.
that like they do for VICAP. They don't ask any of those questions. This is what I said, like they go into it trying to prove her innocence.
Yeah. And to
And
and to
that's
make
it.
him and to make him say there are more bodies.
Yeah. It's so I don't know, it's so weird. Like I'm like if you're why didn't you get here earlier if you were going to do that fucking questionnaire? Why didn't you come here 2 days before? Why
Well,
only 36 hours? Like
I don't know.
36 hours seems like a weird time frame too. I don't know.
And they made a point of saying that these interviews were requested by them.
Yeah.
Like, Jacob wanted them, and separately Sarah Jean wanted them. But then when they show up, I mean, I guess for Jacob, it's like a power trip.
Yeah.
He brought them all the way out here, and he won't tell them that kind of thing. But like, hey, Sarah Jean, why'd you request this interview when you don't want to talk about anything? It was like, I don't believe that she would request this interview. Him, sure. I do not believe that she would request it.
And I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like why is the time frame so strict when like it doesn't look like they have any other people waiting on death row? Like the cell block that Sarah Jean goes into is
Empty.
empty except for her. Like there's not other people that they're trying to get through quick.
Yeah. This isn't like the monthly death row,
Yeah, exactly.
thing.
So
Yeah.
like why can't you just wait a little bit? Okay, anyway,
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh well.
Anyway,
It's because it's Florida, and Florida says "fuck you" authorities.
you know what? I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Um, Florida is real big on the like respect America, but also we do hate the government. Florida's like one of those states.
Florida's a land of contradictions.
Oh, isn't it just? Okay, so we find out that the police went to Sarah Jean's house, and they keep saying Sarah Jean's house when it's both of their houses, and they never say if they were married or not. Like, there was some things that I was just like, what was their relationship? You
I
know?
think, well, they have the same.
Oh, last
Technically,
name,
they
sure,
have
sure,
the
sure.
same last name, so you can assume.
Yeah,
Um, Also, this episode, they go back and forth between calling her Sarah Jane and Sarah Jean.
yeah,
They go back and forth all the time. Technically, she's credited as Sarah Jean,
yeah,
but they do go back and forth, and it really threw me the fuck off. I was like,
yeah,
who's Sarah Jane?
yeah. Um, and it's also so interesting to me that like her mom is in the picture, but they don't even. they don't talk about like his parents. Like I know his parents were abusive, but like they don't try and talk to his parents at all. Um, and then if they keep calling it Sarah Jean's house, but Jacob's workshop. It was interesting. It was just interesting the way they were categorizing things.
Yeah.
So the police go to. We're so early in this episode still.
I
The
know.
police go
This is such
to.
a talky episode.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry.
some of the things they say is really interesting, and some of the things were like, whatever, they go
Yeah,
here, whatever.
yeah. Um. Okay, so back in 1985, they get the anonymous call. The police go to interview Jacob, and they go and they talk to him and Sarah Jean, and then leave, but they're suspicious, so they go wait to get like a warrant, and they come back 3 hours later. Riley's gone, but they do find the bodies. Um, which is interesting to me because they got a warrant to search his house, but like they were buried like under the floor. So were they just like, I'm getting a real bad vibes. Why don't we just bring that ground penetrating radar?
I mean, I imagine they came back with like a dog, maybe.
Oh,
That's what I would imagine. It's like if they were looking for bodies, they would have come with a dog before
yeah,
ground penetrating radar.
that's true. That's true. You're right. You're right. You're right. Okay, they get a pass on that. This is
I'm
where
so glad.
so glad. Criminal Minds, you get one pass. So we find out that Jacob ordered Riley dead, and he told the police that Sarah Jean had assisted him, but she only ever confesses to Riley's death. They call Jacob a sexual psychopath, which he brings up again later. Hotch is like, "You're a psychopath," and he's like, "A sexual psychopath." Don't forget that. And I was like, "Fuck this guy."
Yeah.
Yeah. And
They don't
then
use sexual psychopath again, do they? They usually say like sexual sadist.
or a
They don't
psychopath.
tend to use psychopath too often, honestly.
No, they usually go with psychotic.
Yeah, which is not better, but
Yeah, they only use psychopath when they mean like emotionless and manipulative, you know. But I don't think they use it a lot because
yeah,
psychopath and sociopath both fell out of favor around that time because it's like,
true.
how do you classify someone? People are different, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So now you would say somebody like you would have them diagnosed with a specific mental illness that can present with that. You wouldn't just be like, oh, that's
yeah,
psychopath. Um, okay, so and then this is where they re-describe Sarah Jean as like she's like a war victim, which I think they meant that like he had abused her to the point of like PTSS. And then we find out that two people requested interviews. And Gideon goes, okay, Hotch, go interview Jacob. Morgan and Elle are going to search Sarah's home. It's set to be demolished, so go look at it. And then he turns to Penelope and he says, remember, Garcia, 75% of communication. And she goes, it's nonverbal. And I did think that was very cute.
yeah. I love that she like this episode. You're like, yeah, hey, you do this job a lot, and you've learned some things.
Yeah.
Love that for you.
Even though in the car she's like, hey guys, interviewing serial killers is not in my job description. She like says
And
that
yet
in the
she's
car.
still gonna do great at it anyway,
She's gonna be
sweetie.
so good. She's so good, bestie.
Love her so much,
I
bestie.
love her so much, bestie. So Morgan and Elle go to Sarah's house. Elle's driving. Elle does
Of course
drive.
she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know that bitch is not gonna let a man drive her anywhere. Are you kidding me?
I was like thinking about that. I was like, so like in the hierarchy of drivers, Derek beats Gideon and JJ.
Uh
Elle
huh.
beats everybody else.
Everybody else.
I feel
Even
like
I was
Gideon.
really surprised she beat Hotchner in that.
Yeah, well, I think he wanted to look through his papers because
Fair, fair.
in the future, the people who drive the most are like Hotch, Derek, JJ drives later on once Derek leaves. Like Luke drives, Matt drives. Like Reed never drives.
Nerd.
Emily does when she fucking has to.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't think like, oh, Alex Blake drives. Yeah, Reed refuses. Oh, I think Gideon is one of those people who's like, I'm not driving. I need to think. I need to sit here and be in my mind palace. Like I feel like Gideon straight up refuses to drive.
You know what?
Someone's
That
like,
honestly tracks.
someone's like, hey Gideon, will you drive? And he just goes, no. Like, you know,
Honestly, so true.
Gideon's like, no, no, thank you.
No, I will not drive. You can.
Oh, thank you for asking. No. Yeah. Okay, so then we learned this is what we learned that Sarah Jean would lure victims into her car, being like, "Hey, want to go smoke pot with me?" But then when they got into the car, there was no pot, but there was Jacob.
The way that they do this scene at the Dawes household is actually, I think, interesting but very corny. So they have Ella's like, oh man, I studied this case. Here are some fun facts about it. While I literally paint the picture of what is going on behind them with the dorkiest, most 2006 ass graphics, where like the workshop comes into focus behind them and get like drawn on with fucking gradient wipes as they're going through and like saying things.
I was trying to think if like better graphics would make the scene better, but there's just something so corny about like there was an arch right there, and then she fucking Disney Channel draws an arch, and there's the work table. You
And then it's
know?
like, oh man, marks on the victims' bodies matched all of his tools, and then the
Yeah.
tools magically appear.
Yeah, and Derek is like, and he used a bench saw to dismember the bodies, but like, and he turns and then he's like gesturing to a bench saw that has magically appeared beside. It was just like, I I don't need that. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I know what a workroom looks like. It was just, I don't know.
I think it was weird that they were like, his workshop was back here, and then every single piece of evidence of that entire workshop is just disappeared and gone. I think that's weird. I was like, why are there no walls then if there used to be a workshop here?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think the house has been sitting empty for 15 years and now is set for demolition. Like that's what they're
fair.
saying.
It was weird to me that they were
Yeah.
like, let's
The rest
draw
of the
you
house
a
is there.
mind picture. Yeah, and then but not the
Yeah.
workshop.
I think they like got rid of the workshop so that they could CGI it back. But
They were like, guys, this house is perfect, except there's an actual workshop in the backyard. And their location director is like, yeah, that's what you fucking asked for. And they're like, no, 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 no.
no.
We want to CGI this. It's like, what the fuck?
Oh, God.
Their fucking
Yeah.
location director is like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like,
I wonder if the like arch, his thing with arches, I wonder if it's like his work table had an arch. Therefore he had to put arches everywhere. But that just feels like
or
such a
he like killed
coincidence.
them under arches, so he liked to put them under arches.
Yeah, like what if his work table had been like triangular? Like I don't understand. Like they never explain the significance. They're just like, yeah, dude, he like totally loves an arch.
And then later on at the fucking gazebo, there's not an arch in sight, and yet
It's like a dome top, and they're like, that's an arch. It's like,
it's like,
no,
no, you're not.
that's
That's
not what an
not.
arch is.
Guys, I know you aren't architects, but I feel like all of us should have a working definition of what the fucking arch is, and
Yeah,
that ain't it. But that ain't
it
it.
was literally a gazebo with a dome on top, and like the pillar part wasn't even arches. They were literally like, the top is round. There's an arch. Like,
Just
yeah.
so strange.
It would have been interesting if he had some weird, like, you know, gates of heaven. Like, if he had some sort of like symbolism that went with it. If we saw his cell and he had drawn arches everywhere, like, if there was something up, if he had gotten like, yes, a scar on him from his father's abuse that was an arch, like, if there was something that made it real. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, he's a contractor and he's like super into arches and gazebos with dome tops. Like, what does that mean? Criminal Minds. What does that mean?
Architecturally, it means you're stuck in the past. It means you're really stuck in like the 80s. I just, yeah, it's weird that they were like arches, 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 and then don't
And there's
do
only
anything with that.
there's 3 arches, right? There's his work table that happened to have an arch on the back.
Uh-huh.
There's the archway he built in the mother's house, which
Uh-huh.
is a totally normal thing to put in a house. And
Yeah.
then a gazebo he made with a dome top. That's not being obsessed with arches. Like, that's, I bought a table that looked like this. I helped out my mother-in-law with a very 80s style doorway. And I made an open top gazebo. Like, I just don't get it. I don't know why they kept being like, there's gotta be a body under here. He always buried them under arches. Like,
Yeah, it's just so weird that they were like, this is it, gang. And what it was nothing, actually.
nothing. Yeah, what it
Anyway,
was nothing.
what it was nothing.
That should be the episode title. What
All
it
right, I'll write it
was
down. Give
nothing.
me a second. Let me just kind of open up our master doc here and
Our master doc. Oh, goodness gracious. This show is going to be the death of me.
I know, I'm sorry. Let's keep going. What
No, it's not
where
your
are
fault.
we?
It's fucking Criminal Minds' fault.
Where are we? What are we doing? What's
Where are
going on,
we?
James? James, what's going on? I'm scared.
Okay. Yes. They're talking about, I don't know what that means.
James, I'm getting really scared now. You haven't told me anything. What's going on?
Okay. Jacob was abused as a child.
Uh-huh.
Great. Sarah Jane's mother refused to talk during the court case. She like didn't defend her, didn't say anything, absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And Derek and Elle are going to visit.
Talk with her. See if she'll talk with them now,
Mm-hmm.
and see if she has any more insight.
Mm-hmm. And then Gideon and Reed go to talk to Sarah Jane.
Sarah Jane.
And they're
Reed
walking.
is like here and not here a lot in this episode.
So yes, JJ too. They're just like both of them are just kind of like hanging out.
Yeah,
like
they're in the bullpen for when we need them, but don't worry, gang.
Yeah.
They're not here right now.
Yeah, it's like in group scenes, they are there. And we see them walking a couple times, but not a lot happening with the two of them. Okay. They walk to Sarah Jean's cell, and the warden is like, they call this Dead Man's Alley. Cool. And then
thanks for the fun fact about your prison warden. Like, cool, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. Wow.
Like, what did he want their response to be there?
Both of them are just kind of like, okay.
Okay.
Makes sense,
Cool.
I guess. Like, cool.
All right,
yeah.
I get it. I understand the point of this name. All right, goodbye.
We learned that Sarah Jean has had no contact with Jacob and no contact with other prisoners because they all hate the shit out of her. Because she killed a child, and that's a big no.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. They see the art hanging on her walls, and Gideon's like, I want to know why she did this. Cool. Then we go back to the mom's house, and on the outside of the mom's house is spray painted, "Go to hell, Sarah Jean." And I was like, Sarah Jean doesn't live here.
Like, guys, she's not. Guys, you know that she's in prison, right? She's not here.
She's been in prison for 15 years.
She's in the prison that other people are at, chanting "Go to hell, Sarah Jean." So like, you know that she's not here, right?
Mm-hmm. So the mom lets them in. She's drunk. They're like, tell us about Sarah Jean's like upbringing, and the mom's like, she was just fine, but until she met Jacob, he was shy, quiet, smart, and like drew her in. And then which
also very much contradicts the Jacob that we've seen, who is a fucking insane creepazoid.
Yeah.
Who like wants to smell people's hair.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just they paint a very confusing picture of Jacob Dawes here.
Yeah. And then we find out that Sarah Jean's dad was military. He was very strict. He and Sarah Jean didn't see eye to eye. But he's dead now, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He says
The
that.
mom is like, specifically, she's like, he never hit her.
Yeah, he
She's
hit
very
me.
specific, like, he never laid a hand on her.
Yeah, but he did hurt the mother. And Derek's like, "Why didn't you leave?" Which is very like,
Shut the
"Hey,
fuck up, Derek.
hey, Derek,
Hey,
you
Derek?
know how emotional and physical abuse works. Like, you know that it's incredibly difficult for abused partners to
To
leave their
leave.
abusers. Like, why don't you
Especially
just like
if
leave?"
there's if there's a child involved, doubly so.
Yes, I he said that, and I was like, Derek Morgan,
You know better than
you
this.
know better than
I
this,
feel
Derek
like
Morgan.
every time we talk about Derek in these early episodes, we're like, young man, you're better than this. You're better than this.
I know, and I hate it because I genuinely love Morgan. He's one of my favorite male characters to like ever exist. You know,
Yeah.
he's such a good guy constantly. He's so supportive. He's so nice. He's kind. He like is very protective of his female coworkers without like being
Being that guy.
macho about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, it's harder for women, so I'm gonna be good. And I love that about him. But in these early seasons, fuck. I think
They
I
did
blocked
not
it
know
from my
what they were doing
memory.
with. Yeah, yeah.
Because every time I see him do something super shitty, I'm like, Derek, why are you doing this?
Derek, what's going on?
Yeah. I was like, I love you, Derek. Don't be like this. um. Anyway, she's like, we had no place to go. Like, where would we have gone? And then the mom says she got a letter, or they ask her like, do you know who made that anonymous phone call? And she says like, I got this letter this morning, and she hands it to Elle, and Elle reads it and says it's a statement of innocence, which feels very formal. It's just like a letter of Sarah Jean being like, sorry, you have to live with people thinking I did this thing. Um, but basically, she gets a letter that they're like, oh, we can use this. Like, look, it sounds like she's trying to say she's innocent.
And also, why didn't they know about this already? I thought they read all your mail if you're on death row. I was under the impression that if you are on death row, they read all of your ingoing and outgoing communications. Is that like maybe
I thought you weren't
incorrect?
allowed to have at a certain point.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
it came that morning. It came within 48 hours of her death being put on death, like in Dead Man's Alley. So like how?
That's what I like when I got to that point, I like zoned out for a second because I'm like, wait, I thought they can't send like letters or anything.
Yeah.
But then I like zoned back in. I'm like, I've completely missed the last minute of this episode. Let's just move on.
Let's just move on. Okay.
And move on, I did.
Yeah. So then we go back to Gideon walking with Sarah Jean, and with Reed is there too. And then Hotch walks by with Jacob, and he's like, "Hey, Sarah Jean, it's you. I missed you. Like, we're gonna be remembered forever, yay!" And she's literally like, she's blank faced, and then she turns around and goes, "You orchestrated that, didn't you? Did you learn something, Jason Gideon?" I was like,
Which is like, damn, what a power move, honey.
I
Yes.
love that. He's like going nuts. Hotch. We get some primo angry face Hotch this whole episode. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but when he's talking to Jacob and he is like full brow furrows looking up under his eyebrows, like full grimace. Like I was like, floppy haired angry Hotch though. I love this boy.
This was a fun episode for Hotch, honestly.
It's a fun episode for everyone individually, but as a whole, the episode still manages to fail. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right, actually, though. Like, this episode is less than the sum of its parts, unfortunately.
Yes,
The
and
parts are all very good.
I think that's what we were trying to get at earlier is like, love JJ in this episode, love Penelope in this episode, Reed gets a cute little moment, Gideon's good, Hotch is good, separately the two unsubs are fine, like, like everyone separately, I'm like, I really liked them. I liked the individual scenes. And then I think of the episode as a whole, and I'm like, I fucking hate this episode. Like, it's like so weird. Um, okay. Uh, she's like, "Did you learn anything?" And they sit down, and then it cuts to Hotch and Jacob pulls out a deck of cards, and
From where? I
Jacob
don't
is
know.
yeah, Jacob's like, "Pick a card. Let me show you this really cool magic trick. Pick a card." Hotch won't. He won't smile or anything. Oh, and he's like, "Why would I talk to you?" And Hotch is like, "For closure." And Jacob is like, "I don't fucking care about closure. I'm gonna be dead soon. Who gives a fuck?"
He like literally laughs it off, and I'm like, wait, I thought you guys requested this. I'm like, what is going on here?
I know. I mean, Jacob
Anyway,
definitely did it as a whole like power move. My real
yeah.
question is, why did Sarah Jean do this? Like, did she just like want one person to think she was innocent? You know, it's like one of those kinds of things.
Where you just need just one.
Yeah, but like they didn't explain it enough. I don't know. Okay. So Sarah Jean is talking to Gideon and to Reed, and she says that Jacob was like freedom. Then Elle calls Penelope and is like, "Hey, patch me through to Gideon." And she starts reading the letter, and Gideon starts reading it out loud to Sarah Jane. Sarah Jean, and she like jumps him and like pulls his earpiece out. And then Reed, which I loved this, Reed starts reciting it because he also has an earpiece in. So when Gideon can't, Reed just starts, you know, which I really loved. And then
Yeah, it's
she's
a
like,
neat moment of teamwork. You know, teamwork makes the
"Yeah,
dream work, gang.
yeah." I mean, you know what they say: 75% of communication is nonverbal. Reed and Gideon fucking
Mind melding.
telepathically mind melded.
Or we just got the general idea because Gideon was standing right next to him when he started to read to
Hmm.
like repeat the letter, you know.
I will make
One of
this
the
show
two.
have magic in it. I've just decided.
Okay. Like this show like wheels up because I think every time we talk about Criminal Minds is a little bit magical.
Oh, that is very cute. But I was talking about the crime show Criminal Minds.
Oh, damn it. Okay. All right. Well, okay.
Hey, that's very cute, but no. Oh, thank you so much for asking. No. um. Oh yeah, then Sergine is like slapping at Reed, trying to get his earpiece, and he's got his like bony little arms, and they're just like slap fighting for a second. It was like so funny. Uh, uh, yeah. Then they get pulled apart, and um, Gideon's like, "Yeah, Sarah G did not know about the murders. Like, no way." Which, again, this goes back to the like, how would you not like know? Like, I think one of the saddest things, right, is like if she didn't think he was killing them, then she just thought that like he was making her get women for him to cheat on her with.
Or did she maybe not even like get the women? You know, that's what she said, but did she? I kind of thought the implication here was that she didn't actually know at all. And she
You
didn't
know,
get the women or anything. Because the way that Elle says it, it's like they said that she lured women to her car to say to smoke pot or whatever, that sort of thing. Um, that's sort of what I got from it. I don't know if that's what you got as well, but
you know, I didn't at the time, but now I'm thinking about how she reacted when she found out that like the daughter from that house she cleaned was missing. She was
yeah.
straight up like, "Oh no, I didn't protect her," you know?
Mhm.
So it's like she it seems like she was trying to like keep girls away from him, you know? So maybe you're
Yeah.
right. Maybe like literally it's all made up. Yeah, I don't know.
A case that circumstantial.
I mean, yeah.
Anyway, fucked up.
I'd love to know what she did in her spare time. Like clearly she was like house cleaning for a few families, but like what was she doing the rest of the time? Just like hanging out?
Hanging out with her little boy.
I guess so. And her mother. Okay, so they talk about Jacob and they say long form repetitive abuse informed the creation of his love map. Um, so this relates to another deleted scene called Erotic Love Map.
Oh, hate that, huh?
Yeah, I do dislike that. Oh, it's a great band name. Are you ready, Wisconsin? We're Erotic Love Map. We're gonna rock your
That
world.
that does sound like a band I would pay a $5 cover to see in like a shitty like grunge bar. Yeah.
Don't forget to tip the bartenders.
We have
Yeah.
our debut album on cassette over in the back if you want to get it.
Jesus Christ. We only make our records on 8 tracks. You've really gotta want to listen. Anyway,
can you tell we have collectively gone to too many shitty like grunge bar
hole in the
shows?
wall
I think
basement
you can
bars.
tell. Yeah. Sorry.
Don't forget, there's a special tonight. $5 for a tall boy of Pabst and a double shot of whiskey. Tip your bartenders. Okay.
It's always just like, and then you leave and you're like, man, that was not worth how gross I feel currently, you know? As soon as you walk out, you're like, maybe Erotic Love Map wasn't worth it.
Man, I really thought Erotic Love Map was going to be a great show, but honestly, their albums are better. They just don't hold up live.
God, that is the case for so many of those shitty little bands in terrible grunge bars.
Studio engineering.
It really does work fucking magic.
What kind of music would Erotic Love Map make?
I'm picturing...
Are they like an indie like cooing and it's slow and the bar somehow is smoky even though there's no smoking allowed inside kind of place?
I feel like Erotic Love Map is like, I want to say they're like weird metal where it's like they have like sort of like that early Panic at the Disco sound of like really weird like instrumentation for no reason and then also mixed with metal, and you're like, this is a really strange choice, Erotic Love Map, but like it kind of does work on their studio albums, but it just does not hold up when you see them live.
I think Erotic Love Map is like, you know, they get up real close to the mic and they're like, I wrote this song about my ex. It means a lot to me. You know, I really loved her, but she loved the road and I'm looking to settle down. And I guess that's how it's just gonna be. And then the 1, 2, 3, 4, and you cannot understand a word what they're singing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's really garbage, like thrash metal.
It's
and
like, but like every intro is like, you know, I had dinner with my mom last Mother's Day and it really made me think about my childhood. And, you know, I wrote this song for her because, you know, she raised me as best she could. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's just wall of noise. And you're like, I'm sure the lyrics are so deep, but I cannot even hear you singing.
I feel like it would be almost, to me, it seems almost like it'd be like I wrote this for my high school sweetheart. We thought that we were going to take on the world together. I loved her with my whole heart. And then they do like the count off, and then it's just like, I hate you, you stupid slut. And that's like the whole song. That's what it seems like to me, actually. I've changed my mind. I think they're a shitty thrash metal band.
Yeah, I think there's 3 shitty thrash metal bands. But it's like one of those ones where you like your friends, you're like in town, you know, visiting like your old college friends, and you're like not super close anymore, but you talk enough to like go spend a weekend with them, and they're like, hey, we have tickets to see Erotic Love Map. Do you want to come with us? And you're like, that sounds like a crazy time, sure. And you get there and they're like sobbing, mouthing the words you can't hear. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm never hanging out with these people again. I'm gonna go get a drink. Like,
yeah,
that's Erotic Love Map. Anyway. What if we made a podcast where it's like we do talk about an episode of Criminal Minds every time, but it's like we never actually talk about Criminal Minds?
I feel like we're always just like spinning a big wheel of bullshit to see what we actually talk about during the episode.
Yeah.
And this week, it's Erotic Love Map and
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Anyway, it's the scene where Derek is talking to Sarah Jane's mom, and he's like, "We got to know about her." He says erotic development happens from ages 5 to 8. Like your ages 5 to 8 develop like determines like how you're gonna be in romantic and sexual relationships. And if you're like being abused, then your love map gets polluted. And then once you have a polluted love map, um, then you'll become serial killer. It was unclear.
Well,
uh,
I think the whole idea of the love map is like, I think the whole idea behind it is like it depends. The love map, I guess, kind of like informs how you receive and show affection.
mm,
And if that gets polluted or if wires get crossed along the way, that's when things maybe start to go bad if nobody helps correct that. So, like, it's sort of your love language. And then if your love language gets all fucked up and garbled, then you're going to have some issues no matter what, even if like you do manage to like, I'm sure a lot of people manage to work through that in a very healthy way.
mm-hmm.
This is Criminal Minds, so you don't see those people, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they do, you know?
Okay, but like polluted love map is the name of the band that Erotic Love's Map drummer starts after he does get kicked out of Erotic Love Map.
Yeah, and they last for like 6 months and everybody's really excited for them, and then they come out with their first album and you're like, oh man, no, it was actually the front man of Erotic Love Map that made it so special.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I see why they kicked you out.
Are we gonna have to make like fake band t-shirts for Erotic Love Map with like
That's
fake tour dates on the
yeah.
back? Because I think that would
Our
actually be
merch,
very funny.
our merch is like us sitting on the wings of the jet, and then there's one that's just like erotic love map, and it's like lightning bolts and like brass
It's one of those like
knuckles.
shitty like metal t-shirts that's just imitating like Metallica's logo. So there's
Yes,
like
but it's got a very clear rectangle around the picture where they have ironed on individually. They have ironed the logo onto every single shirt. You know,
God.
that's our
I
second piece
love
of
this so
merch.
much.
Hey, if you would like to see and purchase a shirt about if you'd like to purchase some erotic love map merch, tweet at us at Wheels Up on Twitter. Let us
At
know.
Wheels Up Pod, yeah. If we get enough interest in it, we'll definitely do it. I especially
Yeah.
think Erotic Love Map is a funny shirt and could just work really well.
Wait, but there's gotta be a map on it.
I think the map on it is if we do it on the back and we do like fake tour dates. I'm just
Oh,
saying I think it would
oh,
be really
oh,
fucking
oh,
funny
oh,
if we
oh,
did it
oh.
on the back.
It could be the erotic love map merch shirt. On the front of it is the shitty ironed on erotic love map. There's lightning
Mm-hmm.
bolts, there's brass knuckles, there's
There's
tiny
a skull for
planes.
whatever reason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
skulls and planes. But then the back is tour dates, but it's cities episodes have taken place
Oh my
in,
god. And it's like,
and like the air dates of the episode.
oh, that's
We
good
can do it for like
actually.
season one, the cities of season one and the air dates of the season one episodes.
That would actually be really funny. Okay.
And
Yeah,
that's like
dude.
the
I'm
season
writing it
one
down.
merch.
I'll write it down literally right now. And I'll talk to Jordan about maybe making it.
I would pay for my own erotic love map shirt. Someone's like, "What band is
It's
that?" And you're like, "Don't worry about it.
no, truly, truly, do not worry about it.
Do not think about this for 1 second longer." We learned that I don't like the way they talk about this. We learned that Jacob was an only child, so he was alone in his abuse. Therefore, he has to be alone when killing victims, like to replicate the situations of his abuse. But this time with him as the abuser, he has to be alone. Therefore, Sarah Jean couldn't have participated because again, he was an only child. So I don't like that. I don't know.
It's a weird way to talk about only children, that's for sure.
Like
Coming from an only child.
I understand the logical track they have taken. I just think it's wrong. I think
It's
that starting place was flawed.
weird. It's just like a weird thing to say.
Yeah. Sarah Jean obviously was the anonymous caller. So now they need to prove that Jacob is the one who killed Riley. And then we cut to a news report of a news reporter standing by the like women of Jacob, saying that the news knows the VAU is there, and they're trying to get them not to be killed, like all this kind of stuff. And I wrote JJ mad. She's like, who the fuck told them that? We don't find out. She's like, who the fuck told them that? Um,
Yeah,
she's
they
like,
just
now
never
Jacob's never
explain
gonna
that.
talk. Yeah, they do not ever explain it. I don't understand. Um, yeah, and then JJ's like, I have an idea. Get Hotch in here. And then she starts like, okay, here's the thing. She starts like messing up her hair, but then when she goes into the room with Jacob, her hair is perfect.
She like just like center parts it, and that's it. That's her whole disguising
Oh, you're totally right. She went from a side
thing.
part to a center part because in 1985, all his fucking victims would have had center parts.
Yeah, exactly. That's like literally all she does. It's so weird. But
Yeah.
like I love it. This whole scene with them is like, wow.
Jennifer Drew, love of my life. Oh, I wrote that
Jennifer Drew, I
down.
love you.
Yeah. So they go back to Jacob. He's smoking. Um, and then Hotch walks in, all angry face, and he goes, "Come on, Hotch." Oh no, he says, I know. One day these things are gonna kill me." About his cigarettes, and Hotch doesn't laugh, and he goes, "Come on, Hotch, that was funny." I was like,
I
"No,
love
that was."
that everybody in this like first season is like, Hotch, can you lighten the fuck up, dude?
Yeah,
Like, hey,
yeah.
laugh,
Hey,
buddy.
hey, dude, take a deep fucking breath. Calm down, dude.
Take a deep breath and laugh.
Yeah. So JJ comes in looking, mwah, chef's kiss, and uh, he's like, "Who is this?" And she says, "My friends call me JJ." And he's like, "Hello, JJ." And she says, "You're not my friend. You can call me Jennifer."
Bad bitch moments.
I'm gay.
I'm so gay.
I'm so gay for Jennifer Giroux.
Bad
Uh,
bitches only. Oh,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
I love that scene. It's so good.
Yeah. And it was her idea, which I like, am so obsessed with. And he goes, "That was a nice touch, bringing in the hottie."
Honestly, not to be like so true to a serial killer, but like so true she is a hottie.
But like, I literally was like, "You don't get to call her hottie. Only I get to call her a hottie." Like, so funny. Um, mhm. And then they're gonna play poker, and JJ is dealing. Yeah. So that's cut there. And we'll go back to um, Sarah Jane and Gideon. Gideon goes back to see her. Sarah Jean. Gideon goes back to see her, and she's like, "Sorry for like getting upset earlier. I just wasn't expecting it. Like that's my bad." And then he brings her paintings in, and she's like, That's my private fucking property."
And
Which,
I'm
like,
like, girl,
okay,
you were displaying them.
they were hanging. He could have just taken a picture of them. Like, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, I know you're innocent, but like, you are on death row, though. Like, I don't think you have private property anymore.
Yeah, I
I'm
was gonna
so
say jail
sorry.
is pretty much the epitome of not having private property, but
Yeah. In the poker game, they show the cards, right? I don't know anything about poker.
mm-hmm.
Like, I saw that Jacob had like he could do like jack to like 9 or something. Like he had a
Yeah,
good hand.
he had a straight, I believe.
Yes. And then you see Hotch's cards, and he's got like 3 aces and 2 8s. And I was like, I mean, both of them have good hands. I do not know which is better. this this showing of cards means absolutely nothing to me. I'm so sorry, Criminal Minds.
With poker, straights like where you can go just right on up the cards are usually pretty good. But even better than that, I believe, is getting pairs or three of kinds or like four of kinds. Though that's like
Um,
the step above, basically. So the fact
mhm.
that Hotch has two hearts and then
Yes, two
or sorry,
aces and two
two
eights.
eights, two eights, two aces, and then he like replaces some of his cards and gets another ace. So he has
Yeah.
three aces, two eights. Commonly called apparently like a dead man's hand, which I believe that's a Deadwood thing,
So a dead
right?
man's hand is the straight because um
No.
because Jacob is like,
No, he makes
I
the joke of
won
like,
with a
I
dead
should have
man's
had
hand.
that hand. He's like, oh, you have the dead man's
Oh.
hand. Ironic. I should have had that one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's like, unfortunately though, I win with this straight. And I believe the origin of the dead man's hand is the fact that somebody got shot while having that hand. Wild Bill Hickok got killed in Deadwood, South Dakota, while he had those cards in his hand. So it's called the dead man's hand now.
That's very fun.
That's just like a fun little fact, man.
It's just like a little trivia.
Just a fun little trivia fact. So
but we're not there yet. They show the cards, and I was like, cool, Criminal Minds. I don't know who's gonna win. And then Gideon.
It felt a little bit like. Have you seen James Bond Casino Royale?
When it came out.
It feels like every time in that movie they showed us like the cards and expected us to have a reaction, and I don't know shit about poker, so I was like, cards. That's what this felt like. I was like, cards.
But it was also like, I wish they had done that, because the reveal that Hotch wins would have been even more like powerful.
It would have been more of like a mic drop moment if he hadn't.
It still was, but it would have been for us too, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, Gideon and Sarah Jean are talking about kids. She's like super curious about his children. Oh, we find out that Gideon's son is 25. We do find that out. Which explains, I think, why he's so attached to Reed, who is only a year younger than his own son. And Sarah Jean is like, children suffer for their kids. And she's like, do you carry a picture? And he's like, no, it's my office. And she's like, okay, you don't carry a picture to protect the kids, you know? And she's like, we want to leave them somewhere safe and clean. And he's like, where's Riley? And she's like, he's saved. He's in a better place. And then the chaplain comes and that conversation's done. We go back to the card game.
Which I really like. I just want to stop there. I really like that conversation that they have. I really like, you don't carry a picture of him with you to protect him. I get it. But it's a little weird because I think we showed earlier in the same season that Gideon does carry pictures of people with him.
Yeah. But not his own
they're
kid.
not his own son, I guess. That's fine then.
Yeah.
These people have already suffered terrible things. What's a little more, I guess?
That was like 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Yeah. They're really inconsistent with it, but whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually do like that conversation because it's like, yeah, like you like it was just I think it was just a well acted and good like level ground conversation for both of them. Actually, I just really think they bounced really well off of each other as actors. I just think it was really good. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Oh, so I forgot to mention, when they start playing poker, they make a bet, and if
Hotch fucking bet.
I know. If Hotch wins, then Jacob will mention where another woman was buried. If Jacob wins, he gets to smell JJ's hair. And Hotch immediately goes full like, absolutely not. And JJ's like, it's okay, Hotch. It's fine. And I was like, good for him. Good for her. Like,
do you think JJ cheated or counted cards somehow? Because the way that she says, yeah, it's fine. He can try. He won't beat my good shuffling. You know?
I know. That's interesting. Because she does shuffle and then she does like the bridge. Another arch. Boom, boom, boom. Right?
Shut the fuck up. I know we do a podcast where we talk constantly, but shut the fuck up.
JJ also, we find out, like we see in later episodes, like she can beat Rita cards.
Yeah, so I assume she knows how to count cards. And I assume can deal like this. So, like, do you think she cheated? Or like...
she sounded so confident. I feel like she was just like, I don't care. You know, she was trying to be like, it's fine, to get the name of the women.
It's just my hair. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's like gonna die today anyway. Who cares?
It's fine. I'll just go take a very long shower.
I'll go take the world's longest shower.
Yeah. So then they put the cards down, and Hotch puts his down, and he makes it look like he has 2 aces and 2 eights, so it looks like he lost. Which I don't know why. Jacob isn't like, you have another card, show it to me. Why do you have 4 cards?
It's like, we both had 5 cards, right?
Yeah. And then Jacob is like, oh, look, I got this straight. I win. How funny. And JJ does for a moment. JJ is like, oh, okay. But then Hotch is like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he like spreads his card and he's like, I got whatever this is called. Wait, did I write it down? Nope. Hot twins.
Hot twins.
Hot twins. And Jacob goes
And
like,
honestly, so
"Oh,
true.
so close!" Like,
Darn.
yeah, this is when he calls it a dead man's hand. So then he's like, Jacob says there's no other bodies, so Hotch and JJ get up, and Hotch pretends to get like a call, and he's like, oh, there's been a hold on Sarah Jean's execution, and so Jacob is like actually angry. Like this is the first time he gets like actually angry, and he's like, she killed him. I'll show you, tell you exactly where he's buried, and that's when they're like, ooh, uh, and they go to the gazebo, and they find the skull with the ground penetrating radar. Um,
The gazebo with no arches,
with no arches, with a dome.
but a dome, which I
Yeah.
guess is the same thing if you don't know what an arch is. I feel like the person who wrote this episode didn't know what an arch was. You know? This feels like, you know, when people they're like, "Oh man, this fucking medieval painting of a cat looks like it was painted by somebody who had never seen a cat before." I feel like this episode of Criminal Minds was written by somebody who had never seen an arch before.
They definitely just meant like curved ceiling type things, you know, but they said arch. I wonder
Simon
if
Mirren,
like
what are you doing here, bud?
I wonder if they like had an actual arch and then something happened and they had to like use a gazebo instead, and they were just like, I mean, it's arched.
Arched.
It's curved
Period.
upwards. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Back to command center. The ID comes through for another victim. Or wait,
Ashley.
they're going to get another. No, the
Yeah.
ID comes through and it's another victim and it's a woman. And she's like a blonde woman who's been missing for a long time. And then Gideon is like, Sarah Jane is going to be his last victim. Like her death, like that's going to be his like final victim. And then they go to Sarah Jane's like cell, and she's eating In-N-Out, which
No, she's eating Hardee's.
Oh, Hardee's. I saw that and I was like, they don't have In-N-Outs in Florida, but it's Hardee's, which they don't have in South Florida. That's why I don't know the fucking symbol for it. They only have Hardee's Central and upwards.
Wasn't it also like Carl's Jr.? What the fuck ever?
Yeah, but still. Miami has fucking nothing. I didn't have a Sonic until I went to college in Tallahassee.
Seriously?
There are no Red Robins. I never saw an Applebee's in Miami. Zaxby's, Whataburger, no. I don't even think there's like Chick-fil-A's down there. And again, I haven't lived in Miami in, you know, a hot minute. There might be now, but there weren't when I was growing up. I used to see commercials for like Sonic and be like, is that a how do I go to that? How do I get there?
Get Sonic? God, now I want Sonic.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Fuck, I'd love a cheeseburger right now.
I know, same.
Anyway.
Let's finish this episode, huh? We've been recording for nearly 2 hours.
We're almost done. We're almost done.
Okay.
Yes. So then the girl's name was Ashley, and you find out that Sarah Jean was Ashley's parents' house cleaner. And so when Gideon tells her, she's like super upset about it. And Jacob won't tell them any more victims. And he's like, please, like, just why are you doing this? And she's like, you need to leave. And kind of implies that she like hid Riley to keep him away from Jacob. And then Gideon goes back to the command center and he just goes, Moses. And Reed is like, Book of Genesis. Yeah, okay. Or whatever it was. And he's like, Gideon says something like Moses' mother was supposed to kill him, but instead she like put him in a basket and like sailed him down the river. And I was like, why do we need this metaphor? Like, Jason Gideon, like, we get it. Like, you can quote the Bible. Like, we get it.
We get it. You're a religious man, and you talk about it all the time.
All the time.
He always claims to be like not super religious, and then he talks about it fucking constantly.
If you can quote the Bible down to like the book and the verse chapter number, you're a religious person. You know?
Yeah, like I can maybe say Moses was in. He wasn't in Genesis. He was in Exodus, in the book of Exodus, I think. But that's about what I
Yeah.
remember.
I know that Old Testament is pre-Jesus, New Testament is Jesus, and I can do some like, you know, is David and Goliath in the Bible?
Hmm?
Is David and Goliath in the Bible?
Yep, that's Old
Okay.
Testament.
Uh, what about Jonah and the whale?
Also Old Testament.
Hmm. I can do that. I can name a couple situations.
The thing is like, so New Testament is all about Jesus and his funky crew. And I can
Uh-huh.
say this, I grew up religious.
Oh, live your best
Um,
life.
I can say that he had a funky little crew of like 12 dudes. All of the
No homo.
stories in New Testament tend to have more like regular names. But like in the Old Testament, they were like, this is Jonah and his fucking
Whale.
Goliath and the whale and
Hmm.
everything. Like it's all like weird names, whereas like in the New Testament, it's like this is Simon and Peter and John and
Yep.
Mark. These are just
So
four
funny.
dudes that were in my business class. Like these are dudes who have a business
Oh,
degree.
modern day Bible AU, college AU, slow
We
burn,
can't do
apostles
this.
to lovers.
Stop. The washing of the feet turns into a really dramatic like pre-graduation ceremony thing. Ugh.
Anyway, we see the warden like prepping the electric chair. Old Sparky.
Again, why?
They really romanticize this fucking chair.
Yeah, they
It
did it.
really. This was. I was like, okay, but like the slow mo montage of them like wiping the chair down. I was like, this shit's
It's a little
propaganda.
much.
It's like a little much.
It's a little much.
Marrying to be like fucking glorifying death and shit. Especially, okay, one thing this episode did not address enough was the fact that the legal system did put an innocent woman in jail though.
Yeah.
On death row, and they are gonna
They were
kill her.
like they were like, it's fine she wants to die, hand wave it away. But like,
But like
what the fuck?
they did fuck up though. And it's
They did
supposed to be
fuck up
like
real bad.
and it's supposed to be like, we're putting these criminals to death because they did all this crime and stuff, but it's like you did like fuck up though. Like innocent people do die on death row.
You did fuck up real bad.
Yeah. It was mhm. So then Gideon's like going through her wait. Oh no. So then they like see a look for like abandoned babies, like look through the newspaper to find like abandoned babies, and none were found. And then it cuts to Jacob being shaved, his head, and then Gideon's like goes to the warden and is like, I need to get into her room. I need to talk to her. And he says no, like it's 5 minutes before um like his death, like official lines of communication are closed. That's it, they're done. Um and then the he's Gideon's like, please 5 minutes. And the guy's like, okay, fine, 5 minutes. Um,
He's real easy to convince too.
really to convince though.
Like
Um,
he didn't really have to try at all. He didn't have to say anything funny. He was just like, just 5 minutes. Come on.
yeah.
It's like, all right,
Uh,
fine. Like, okay.
yeah. And then the guy like takes her outside and
She
she's
gets
like
to look
looking
at
at
the
the moon.
moon.
Yeah.
She's like,
Um,
how's your kids doing?
yeah. Did you tell your son about the story of the man on the moon? Like I used to tell Riley all the time that like, as long as we if we were outside then we were looking at the same moon, like that kind of thing. Um Gideon's like tearing her room apart. Here's the thing. He just like destroys everything in her room. Finds the picture of the him playing cello on the back of the painting, and then she's like in her room getting her haircut, looking at the painting, flips it over and is like, "They got the newspaper clipping." But like, did Gideon like find it and then like very meticulously put herself back together so she
I feel like
wouldn't
he ran
notice?
out and somebody else very meticulously put her cell back
Yeah,
together,
yeah, that's Gideon. That
Because
is
we know how
Gideon.
Gideon is.
We do. Yes, there's a picture of the back of Riley without her cello, and it's been cut so you can't see any text. And Hotch is like, JJ, go circulate this photo in the media. And she's like, "Do I say who it is?" And he says, "No, just say it's like, a missing child we're looking for." Jacob tells them that there's four more girls. Uh, and then yeah, Sarah Jane is getting her haircut, and then as um Jacob is like walking down Dead Man's Alley, he's like, "Sarah Jane, we're gonna be together forever," and he
We're gonna ride
says,
the lightning, baby.
"We're gonna ride the lightning, baby." So that's our episode name. Um, mhm. And then they realize that it's that Jacob is that the picture is a recent photo of Riley, and
Yeah, because
then
the kid
yeah,
obviously is like 16, 17 years old.
yeah, and yeah, and
What
so
other child would she be keeping a photo of in her
right, she's like,
hidden behind her painting?
yeah, I just like to look at it. This makes me happy to know kids are happy. No, it's him. It's Riley. So then Jacob is being put into the
Mhm.
straps for the chair, and they ask him like any last words, and he says, "Bring it on." And then Hotch like bursts in and like shoves the picture of Riley against the window and says, "You lose. He's alive." And um Jacob is like, "No, no!" And then they cover his face and they kill him. And I was just like, "Damn, Hotch, you really
I
needed this guy to
love
know."
Yeah, I love that though. I love when people are like, "Sure, maybe I won't win this situation,
Yeah,
but I'm gonna make sure the other person loses."
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's so satisfying.
It is so satisfying. I like that though. This episode was very like protective Hotch. Like protective of JJ, protective of Riley and Sarah Jean. So then Gideon goes to Sarah Jean and is like, "Jacob's gone. Like, tell me now where Riley is." And um Sarah Jean is like, "This was never about Jacob. It was about Riley. You know, um, all I've ever cared about is keeping Riley safe. So like, it doesn't even matter if I live or die as long as Riley is safe." Uh, so then we find out that Riley was given to the Sheffield family. Sarah Jean used to clean for them. Um, and you see that Riley got a scholarship to play cello. So then Elle and Derek have to go to the house and they like get in the car and Elle's like driving, of course. But she goes, "Hello, what drive is it?" He says it and he's like, "That's not enough time." And she goes, "You better buckle in." And she just and just takes off in her fucking car. Woo!
I love her for that. She's like, "Buckle
Yes.
the fuck up, bitch. Let's go."
She does nothing in this episode but like drive
Drive.
drive.
And
That's
honestly,
it.
love that for her.
I love it. Good for her. I wrote down, "Ugh, let her go, Gideon," about when he's like, "Sarah Jean, stop it! Like, you know, you. Why can't we save both of you? Like, he's gone. Like, let me help you, let me save you." And Sarah Jean's just like, "No, stop. Let me
I've made my
do this."
decision.
Yeah. Um, and then so Elle and Derek get there, to the house. It's the no one's home, but the family comes home and they see Riley, so they're like, "Okay, we need to stay the execution." And they tell Gideon. Then Gideon, I like hate this. Okay, like how it is ultimately Gideon's choice whether or not Sarah Jean lives or dies. Like it
It's
is
so
not.
weird.
He has no right to do this. Like she's made her choice. She's thought this through. She's had 15 years to think this through. Then he shows up and he says, "I know what's better for you. I know what's right. I know what's good. Like, this kid needs to know that you exist. Like, he needs to know about this," all that kind of stuff. And it's like, Gideon, that's not your fucking choice. Like, he's not your son. This isn't your life.
Yeah, it feels like he's maybe like projecting a lot
Yeah.
of it. A
And also,
lot.
like, I, it's sad and I definitely sympathize, but like, Sarah Jean has made the choice for Riley to grow up and not know that his parents were serial killers.
Yeah.
And like Gideon doesn't get to decide that that's wrong.
Yeah, and it's a
It
hard
just,
choice
yeah.
for her to make, but I really like in that situation, I probably would have done the same thing for my child.
Yeah.
Like It would be better to just think that you're a normal kid and not have to deal with the baggage of having a serial killer father that you didn't know about until you were like 17 and ready to go on and be a famous musician, you know? Like it's
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, even if she lives, would she get to go free? Or do they just take her off of death row because she's still like an accomplice? And like everybody hates her in the public. So like
everybody
she's,
hates her so goddamn much.
yeah, like her, like Riley finding out, all that does is like open. And also because if this came out, it would get into the media.
Yeah.
So Riley would then have to deal with like, I just found out that I'm adopted, or I just found out who my birth parents are, and I'm also now being hounded for being the child of a serial killer, and like my mom is either in jail or she has to put up with all this stuff. It's just like, let the woman make the choice that she thinks is right for her kid.
Yeah. And ultimately I think she made the better choice here.
I do
And I
too.
think yeah. I just
Yeah.
hate how Gideon is like, "No, but no." Like,
He just
shut
thinks
up,
like he
Gideon.
thinks he knows what's best for everybody. Like in the same way that he's like divorce bad, family should always be together. He's now like, I know what's every parent's choice should be. And it's like, dude, you are divorced and also your kid doesn't talk to you. Why are you trying to make
And
these
also, yeah, you
choices for
haven't talked
people?
to your son for fucking 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Ugh. Yeah. So Gideon's like, no, don't say anything. He's the wrong guy. So Derek like clearly knows like the choice Gideon has made, but he like goes along with it. And then the dad is like, "Thank you," you
so
know.
it implies to me that the dad also knew
Oh,
somewhat. He knew.
well,
Obviously, he knew where
I
the kid
think
came from, but also, like, he knew the choice that they were making.
yeah. I mean, imagine like I'd imagine that like they kept tabs on Sarah Jean, if only because like because obviously like she
If only
trusted
to
them
send
enough.
her that photo. Like, otherwise, how would she have gotten the photo of the kid? I
Oh, then
imagine it would
a
have
newspaper
come.
from a different county. You're totally right.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah,
it says to me that they were at least friendly-ish. I mean,
yeah,
I guess like at least not openly hostile to Sarah Jane.
yeah.
And so it says to me that like when the FBI came knocking, they were like not
We
surprised.
Yeah, but also like these were people she cleaned their houses. She was their like house cleaner. But she obviously trusted them enough to in her darkest moment go to them and say, "Please keep my child safe." And they
Yeah.
did. Clearly they're good people, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, obviously this is totally projecting. We see one scene of them, but like I can imagine them telling him when he's older. But he's fucking 16 right now.
Yeah.
Like let him focus on
Yeah.
going to a good college. Like this isn't the time. You know. I feel like it's one of those
Yeah.
things you eventually have to tell your kid, but
Yeah. Uh-huh,
that's
definitely.
that's the parents' choice, you know. So, yeah. Um and then oh, she's like, "Hey Gideon, can you be the last person I see before I die?" And he like goes in there and he does. There's this really like triumphant music playing. Like it's got those like religious vibes, like old timey music, uh you
Mhm.
have this triumphant like look at this mother making this sacrifice for her child and blah blah blah, can't be turned away, mothers must always protect their children, like all this kind of like these vibes. And I was just like, criminal minds, get over yourself.
Yeah, they really it was
I
a weird scene. It was weird. Emotionally, I was very confused.
Yeah. Also, like coming right off of the last episode where they were like families always have to be together, like it really felt like there was somebody on the writers team who was like,
Working through some shit,
yeah, someone had some
honestly.
real shit to say, like, and they got, my god, they were gonna say it in Criminal Minds.
They
Yeah,
really were.
it's very odd. Um, I wrote question: no body, no crime.
Okay, Taylor Swift, calm down.
I know. Wow. Okay, and then we go to the scene that was playing at the beginning, and it's Gideon watching Riley / Byron play the cello.
And he's playing that jaunty little dance tune, the Prelude in G major.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one. It's very overdone and stereotypical, but I do like it here. You know? He's free.
Yeah. I think it was in the
Princess
Princess
Diaries.
Diaries.
From undue fatherly influence.
Okay, I'm over this episode. Let's finish this.
What do you rank it? Scale of 1 to 10.
This is my 1 episode.
You had a lot of good things to say about this, though. You really liked the parts.
I fucking hate this episode.
Okay. Honestly was gonna give this like a 4. Like, I wasn't gonna
do
be
it.
as...
Listen, I will give media a fair shake, and I will give it positive feedback when it deserves it. JJ in this episode, 10 out of fucking 10. But I dislike this episode.
Yeah, this episode is a lot, and not a lot of it is good.
No.
Next time on Wheels Up, we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 15, Unfinished Business.
No memory.
I don't remember this one.
I'm sure it's a great one.
I'm sure it's good.
Is it? Maybe there's ghosts. Unfinished business. Ooh.
No, it's the description is when a serial killer reappears, the team works with a retired BAU agent who just published a book about the perpetrator.
Oh, I remember this episode now.
I think it's one of those that, like, I think I'll remember it when I get into it, but right now the words unfinished business mean nothing to me.
The guy's like giving a talk, and like at the talk he like gets a threatening letter from the serial killer.
That's it. We're done talking about Criminal Minds for right now. Great. If you want to see like merch or anything like that, tweet us on Twitter. We're at Wheels Up Pod, everywhere where social medias can be found.
Yeah.
We're always there. Also, if you would be so kind as to give us reviews on Apple Podcasts, it really does help us out a lot.
I've closed and opened my notebook like 4 times because I keep forgetting we finish this with an ending quote.
What is your ending quote? What do you have for me here?
I have it right here. And it's a line from Jacob, our good man Jacob. Even though I like you, and I do like you, I'd like to be alone now. Honestly, so true. King of setting boundaries. Not just so true a serial killer again. Boundaries? Not to like so true a serial killer again, but setting boundaries is important, gang. Even if you like somebody. I was gonna be like, ha ha ha, B, let's finish this. I need to be alone. And then you straight up were like, so true. Now you really do want to be alone because you don't want to talk to me anymore. And I get that. I would like to talk to you. Perfect. In the recording.